Hello and welcome to the show. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. Hey, it's Boles.television. Coming to you live and in concert from the East Coast of these United States. Well, we have a lot going on today. I'm wearing my Jets I Love You shirt. Very beautiful. Very fun. I also have a New York Giants I Love You ASL shirt that I have worn here as well. Do we look good in green? I'm not sure it's my color. A little bit darker green, I'll go for it. Jets green, not sure it's working out. So as you know, we've been playing around with a lot of AI. A lot of AI images on Microsoft Bing, ChatGPT, Midjourney, Night Cafe, Wombo, Bot, Blue Willow, Stable Diffusion, all kinds out there, all kinds of varying quality. But the newest endeavor we have, and we're not going to listen to any of it or show any of it, is AI voice. It's really rather fascinating. And as we have discussed here previously, I have cloned my voice so I can now do new podcasts without the coughing and the scratching and the that I'm doing now. So is it better to create a whole new podcast episode, or is it better to, take slices of this live show and make it into a podcast? Who knows? Who cares? It's all good. It's all the same, really, because it's all content and everything's changing all the time. So after I was done, getting my voice professionally cloned, there's also a lesser quality clone of a voice that you can do. And I was trying to think, well, what other audio files do I have of myself or other people I know? My university professor, friend, mentor, Howard Stein. Now, Howard died in 2012, so he's been gone for a while. Feels like yesterday, but gone for a while. And when Howard was alive, we talked a couple of times a week. We just call up. He was in Connecticut. I was in New York. We just chat about stuff. But sometimes I was traveling, and Howard would try to get a hold of me because we were working on articles and scripts together. So sometimes he'd just want to, leave me a message. And Howard was old, and usually people that age don't know and don't use voicemail. They usually talk to it as if, they think they're talking to the person. But Howard wasn't that way. Howard's very smart and bright about everything. So he would leave me interesting voicemails over the last, 5-6 years of his life. And because he was leaving them on my Google Voice business line, it was very easy for me to download his voicemails and save them. And I immediately did that after he died because I was so devastated by his death. And I didn't know I could download his voicemails. I just knew that they were there and I had saved them and I did not erase them because I always wanted to listen to them. And you can very carefully hear the decline in his health and his vocal quality over the years as he, aged into sort of a failing heart. And so I saved those, I believe they were like 12 voicemails, put them on our SoundCloud account. And if you go to Boles Blogs right now on the sidebar, you'll see those Howard Stein voicemails. They're fascinating. It's all really about work process and things we were working on together. And you can see the progression. And he's sort of corrects me a couple of times and says, you missed this, and it's supposed to be that, not what you did. Just like old times. So now that we can voice clone, itchy days. Now that we can voice clone based on audio files, I realized, now wait a minute, I have about 12 minutes of Howard leaving me voicemail messages. Now what if I put them into our voice cloning device. And when my voice was cloned, it had to be 3 hours, 500 megabytes of files. If you just want to do a quick clone, which is what I did with Howard, it's only 5 minutes of audio files that doesn't have any background noise, that doesn't have any music, that's just, someone speaking. Well, what better than someone leaving you a voicemail? If they're in a quiet area, and Howard was, because he was always calling from home. So I thought, it can't be possible. This wouldn't work. It's too shocking to be real that Howard Stein can come back in a way through the magic of AI voice cloning and come back and have a conversation or narrate his articles that he wrote for me all those years ago. So I uploaded 5 files for the quick clone, 1 minute each, total of 5 minutes, that's it. And then they get processed, and then in about 30 seconds, you get a message back from the system saying your voice is ready. I said, well, this is at 5 minutes. Mine was 3 hours. The quality's not going to be good. It's going to be impossible. But I'll see what it's like. And so I type up a little thing, hi, this is Howard Stein. And then I apply the voice to the text, which is how this voice clone works. It reads a text file. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever heard in my life. Howard Stein was back in the world of the AI clone living. Shocking. Wild. And the voice clone was especially good because when I submitted my voice for cloning, I was submitting podcast material. Highly edited, filtered to get rid of any kind of background noise. You wouldn't say it's unnatural speech, but it's not natural speech like we're having now, or that I would leave like on a voicemail for someone. It's very formal. Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm David Boles on this day in history. That kind of thing. So that's kind of how my voice sounds in my voice clone. But Howard's voicemails to me were always wildly fun, which is why I saved them. David, it's Howard. And then he would go on and he would, sometimes, stop and not stutter, but would, rethink a way to say a word, which is how we speak in real life. Those are called guttural utterances. My professional voice clone doesn't really have any. In fact, I hate the sounds of tongue clicking. When you speak, your tongue clicks. I also don't like the sound of breath. I think it's an ugly sound. So when I edit my podcast, I edit out all that stuff. The clicks, the breaths, the popping P's, which I was not really able to get rid of completely. And my voice clone has sometimes a popping P, which now I realize that I love because it sounds more real. I don't sound like a robot. So back to Howard. So Howard did a lot of breathing, and especially as time went over, he had a little harder time breathing, so he would take breaths between his words. Sometimes he'd say ah, and and well. And all of that got cloned into his voice. So when I type, hi, this is Howard Stein, I'm really an AI voice. I'm a clone version of Howard Stein. That's how my voice would read that text. But the Howard Stein version with the Howard Stein recorded voices. Hello, I'm Howard Stein, and I am the host of this, human meme podcast. And I love it. It's real. It's a real person speaking to you through an AI voice clone. So I went back in time, and Howard had published with me on davidbolesblogs.com 10 poems. Many of them were silly. He just sent them to me. I published them because they were silly. But he had like maybe 10 really serious long-form articles. So I went in yesterday, and when you get obsessed, this is what you do all day. I went in and translated all of his long-form articles into podcasts, into Human Meme podcast episodes, so I can publish them through the podcast network, which then propagates them all over the world in all different places to be saved forever and ever. And then I can take the link to the podcast and embed that link in the text of his original article for me, here on David Boles Blogs. Now, this project, I think there are 7 or 8 articles, are going to take like a week to propagate, publish on the podcast network. Then I have to go copy, embed into the new article. So in like a week, 10 days, all of Howard Stein's long-form articles will be voiced for you to listen to all anew on David Boles Blogs. It's an amazing project, I must say. It gives a whole new refreshing of articles that are, 20, 15, 10 years old. It gives them a whole new life with the new life voice of what I'm calling AI, artificial intelligence, Howard Stein. Now, I know Howard would love this. It's very dramatic. It's very interesting. It's very forward-thinking. And that's Howard. He always wanted something new. He respected the old, the ancient, but he was always searching the horizon for the next interesting form of theater, production, performance. He would find it fascinating. And he would laugh and laugh and laugh. And if you could hear what I have done, just using his voice, reading his words that he wrote, he would laugh and laugh and laugh. It's really an amazing, amazing thing, and very scary. Because if I were, let's say, a less moral person, you could really do terrible things to people. And all these voices are private. No one can touch them but me. But let's say you had evil intention, and you had, cloned the voice of Sally, let's say. So we're not talking about me or Howard. And, Sally's a well-respected university professor. You have her lectures. You clone her voice. And then you have her say, terrible things about people in the world. And you publish that somewhere. It's like, hey, can you believe what this professor said? And then it's her voice saying terrible, terrible things. And you know how, the lie gets out faster than the truth could ever catch up in the world. And suddenly you are condemned and hated because of bad actors. So that's coming for everybody. Look out. No one will be safe. So then I got to thinking, now, wait a minute. Okay, so I have Howard done. It's fabulous. And if his family wanted, can you type a note for the great grandchild that wasn't born before Howard died? Could you, if I sent you something, could you have it voiced and send it back? Now, some people might think that's a little creepy. Other people might think, my gosh, how cool could that be to have a great grandfather speaking to children who were not born when he was living? I think it's terrific. So then I was thinking, well, what other voices do I have access to? And I thought of my old friend, more friend than mentor, Marshall Jameson. Now, I have audio, actually, of Marshall Jameson narrating a movie, right? So there's music, there's sound effects. It's like, oh, this won't work. Because to get a good voice clone, you have to have just the voice. But I had the audio file. It was a movie, so there's the movie version and there's the audio version. I had both. So I was thinking, what can I do? How can I make this work? And then I did a little Google search on how to remove music from an audio file. And there are services that you can use that are online. You upload the file, the music's removed, you download the file, and it's done. And you can download the file with the music, and you can download the file without the music. So I found this service. Doing all this morning, by the way. So I upload the file and listen to, the conversion, and it's very, very well done. Now, because this is a story about childhood and the music is gone, the background zzz is gone because it's old from the 1980s, early 80s. But because the whole thing happens outside and it was shot in Nebraska, you hear these strange sounds of birds. Chirp, chirp. He's, doing his voiceover, but he's, acting outside. Chirp, 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 chirp. Just lightly, faintly in the background. So I thought, oh no. So I tried to run it again and again with the online service. It could kind of get rid of the sound of the chirping birds. But it was always still there. And to really kind of remove it by incremental movements, Marshall's voice was getting muddied. Like the end of his words is getting cut off. And I said, well, that's not acceptable at all. So I downloaded it, the original, that was okay. And then I put it into Adobe Audition, tried to get a voice print of the birds, and I then ran the voice print to remove all the bird sounds, but then, because Marshall is speaking and the birds are chirping behind him, it tended to cause more problems than it solved. So I thought, okay, wait a minute. I fiddled around as much as I could to preserve the integrity, the intonation of his voice without getting it chopped off. But you could still barely hear the birds in the background. So I thought, I'll upload it to the cloning service and we'll see what happens. So I did that. I went into Adobe Audition first, and I cut out all the gaps because, it was a presentation, so there were just gaps of where music was, but there was no music. It was just a dead gap. The original filtering did a really good job. So I cut out all the gaps. There were a couple of places where other people were speaking, so I cut that out. The whole thing was, I think, 9 minutes, and I cut it down to 5. Because that's the voice cloning service says if you do more than 5 minutes, it doesn't make any difference for the fast clone. So I downloaded that, uploaded it to the cloning service, and in about 2 seconds, okay, your voice is ready. And again, I said to myself, impossible. So I typed up a little introduction. My name is Marshall Jameson, remember? And then clicked read and had the Marshall Jameson voice read his text. And it was amazing because the birds were gone. So somehow the voice cloning service is able to separate even more microscopically background sounds, birds, noises that you don't want in a voice clone. Somehow they're able to just pull out the essence of the voice and get rid of all the other junk. That alone was thrilling that the birds were gone. And it's interesting because Marshall then reads like a professional announcer because that's kind of what he was doing in this movie video. You know, professionally acting, professionally speaking. He wasn't, sitting around jawing, as we say in the Midwest, about, life or Broadway or all the people that he met, telling stories like Howard Stein was doing in the voicemails. No, Marshall was very formal, very announcerish. So the voice clone is true to that. It's very official. I'm Marshall Jameson, and this is the news. Whatever. But that's the kind of tone of his voice. So I was playing around with it because Marshall published with me a lot of poetry, not a lot of long form stuff like Howard did. So I need to find longer form stuff I can have the AI Marshall Jameson read for me on davidbolesblogs.com. And it's interesting that the birds are gone and the officialness is very firm. And Marshall was very tall, had a very deep voice. And when he answered the phone, most people say hello or who's speaking or whatever, You'd call Marshall, and this is his old New York days. He'd pick up the phone and say, Jameson. Every time I called, I would freak out because you get this booming voice in your ear, Jameson. Hi, Marshall, it's David calling. And then it was, hey, David. But just the Jameson. I've always wanted to do that. Boles. Scary, right? So now I have to play around with Marshall's AI voice. I mean, if I were, writing my own documentary, and I needed a narrator, and I didn't want to be the narrator myself, I have Howard Stein available. I have Marshall Jameson available. And so I have all the rights to all these audio files and from Marshall, the show that we worked on together that I wrote and directed. So I have his voice, I have his likeness, I have his being, I have everything that I need to create the next iteration of him on the live internet. And I'm sure this will freak people out. I mean, if you are a friend of Marshall Jameson and you haven't spoken to him or heard from him for 20 years because he's dead, and now all of a sudden you're listening and his voice pops up, reading something that that he never recorded, that's a freaky, fantastical experience. So this AI voice stuff is very interesting. I have more thoughts on how it's sort of dangerous to people who have disabilities when it comes to AI technology. And I know that sounds a little scary, and it might be. And we're going to discuss it in full in a moment. Hi, we are back from break. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles Television. It's BOLES TV. So, hey, we've been talking about AI, AI voice cloning, and now the next step has been taken, and it's a really big step, especially by OpenAI. Now, earlier this week, we've been talking about the new DAL E3, DALL-E3. Big change, big jump from version 2 of the image creator, the AI image creator. And people like it. It does text very well. You know, you can make a sign, you can make people say things in text that other AI image bots like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion cannot do, at least not yet, but you know that's coming. So the next step is called vision for ChatGPT. Now, we've been talking about voice cloning, and for, the deaf, not very interesting. And right now, historically, AI, text, images have been visual, right? You type something, and something is typed back to you in text. So it's very inclusive, not really for the blind, but for the deaf. They have been included in AI, artificial intelligence. So far, is that about to change? And historically, when technology changes and advances, let's say the deaf are involved and are brought along on the upper movement, the curve of the technological expansion. With the TTY, where you can, use a regular phone back in the 70s and type to another TTY, and you can have a conversation back and forth. Now you have CapTel machines, where a deaf or hard of hearing person can make a phone call, use their voice, and when the other person speaks, it gets translated now by AI into text on a screen that's on the television. Very interesting. However, there are changes coming in AI that seem to suggest more of a leaving out for the deaf than an inclusion. What are you talking about, young man? Well, let me try to show you. This is a blog post by OpenAI. These are the people who run, operate, own ChatGPT. You can now see, hear, and speak. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because there is a new feature where you can, speak, ask a question of ChatGPT using the microphone on your phone. And then you can choose a voice that ChatGPT will use, male, female, accent, no accent, to speak its answer back to you. My phone is ringing. Give me 1 second. Okay, that was bizarre. I'm back. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here we are. We are back from break. Okay. My phone rang. Nobody was there. Very strange conversation. So now we go back to this. So ChatGPT, you can now see, hear, and speak. So you can now speak a question to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will provide its answer to you in spoken form as well. And then when it's done speaking to you, it waits for you to speak back without having to push another button. So you start a conversation by pressing a button, and then you ask a question. ChatGPT replies to you using a voice technology. And then when it's done speaking, you speak, and then you have this conversation that can go on forever. Now, that's interesting and wonderful because it means you're not tied to a keyboard. It means if you are driving somewhere, you can just have a conversation, get information, more information, research, as you are doing it in real time without having to take your eyes off the road or look at a screen or type something into a phone. And right now, when that happens, when you're done with the conversation, your conversation is preserved as text. So you can go back and read it or share it later with other people, okay? But in the real time scheme of it, if you cannot hear or if you don't use your voice, that whole big, new, exciting part of OpenAI, ChatGPT, is not available to you. Someone else can do it and then share the results with you in text, but for you to use it yourself, it's not possible. So for the first time, it's like technology is now saying to, the deaf, hard of hearing, go over there. And it's an interesting change because usually technology is the great equalizer when it comes to disability and access. So what else is in ChatGPT besides, being able to have a real-time conversation? So about a couple of weeks ago, ChatGPT announced we are beginning to roll out new voice and image capabilities in ChatGPT. They offer new, more intuitive types of interfaces by allowing you to have a voice conversation, which we just discussed, or show ChatGPT what you're talking about. So here's an example. Like you can, on your phone, you can take a picture of something, a cloud, a cat sculpture, a plant, and then ChatGPT will say, okay, this is a big picture. What exactly do you want me to focus on? And then you can draw on the screen, circle, the focus of your interest. And then you say something like analyze, provide feedback, tell me what you see. And then the AI looks at the image, looks at the photograph, and presents to you analysis of what this is and what it's meant to be. And it works really, really well. So speak with ChatGPT and have it talk back to you. We discussed that. I've ironically, strangely said, give me the history of American Sign Language over the last 100 years. And it gave me a long 10-minute response, spoken response, about the history of ASL. Very interesting. And at the very end of that conversation, when I said, thank you for the information, and it wished me a good night, my AI bot, in Italian. It said buonanotte. What? Because I have told my bot, hey, I'm practicing Italian. Don't speak to me in Italian by default, because it did at the beginning. Unless I say, okay, now we're going to have an Italian lesson. You test me and I give you answers to your tests, or we can just have a conversation back and forth in Italian. You correct me when I'm wrong and I'll read what you type. Right? Now, I don't know if I can have a voice conversation in Italian with ChatGPT, but now I'm thinking I should try. But when it wished me buonanotte, good night, I was taken aback because it was just a little delicate frosting to the end of the conversation. And then I said back to it, buonanotte to you too. And I was so flabbergasted. And then it said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Can you repeat it? And it was like, oh no. I blew the beautiful moment. But I didn't tell ChatGPT to wish me a good night in Italian after having our conversation. It just did it on its own, like it has a mind and an experience of its own. And I have to say, I loved it. So speak with ChatGPT, have it talk back. So that's exactly what we did. You can listen to voice samples. You get all kinds of different voice samples of people you might like to have, speaking in the ChatGPT voice. You can chat about images, which we discussed. You can now show ChatGPT one or more images. Troubleshoot why your grill won't start. Explore the contents of your fridge to plan a meal or analyze a complex graph for work-related data. To focus on a specific part of the image, you can use the drawing tool in our mobile app. So there you go. What is this? It's a seat of a bike. And then you circle that and say, well, what is that thing called? Or whatever you want to know. Now, what's interesting is if you run an online group, sometimes they're like, doctor groups or skin groups, and people are worried, they have a lump on their throat, and they take a picture of it and they post it online. And they say, what is this mark? I've broken out in giant hives. What do you think this is? And if you're fortunate and you're in a good group with verified people, sometimes you get a nurse or a doctor saying, you can't make a decision on what it is over the internet, but it looks like this to me. And sometimes that happened like with monkeypox when that was first starting off. And people said, I have these strange things on my genitals. What is it? And, the answer was very clearly monkeypox. So go get tested, go get seen. It's solved. Now with this, you don't have to take a picture, really, of your monkeypox and put it online. You can just do it from the privacy of your own home. Go to ChatGPT, take a picture of your monkeypox, and say, what do you think this is? And ChatGPT will probably say, I'm not a doctor, go to the doctor. But if you force me to answer, it sure looks a lot like monkeypox. Or something like that. So it's amazing technology where you can take a picture of a plant and say, the leaves of this plant are dying. Why? What kind of plant is it? What do I need to do to get it back? And ChatGPT will answer you and say, well, have you tried this? What about this? It's really amazing technology. So they are slowly releasing these new features. Now, they were supposed to be, according to the timeline of the incredible nerds who are never happy, everything was supposed to be rolled out by Tuesday. And wherever they were in the world, if it was Tuesday and they didn't have it, they were furious and upset. And then they kept trying and trying and trying. And by, Wednesday afternoon, most people had a lot of the features, at least on their phones, and some had them online. So this is technology. In 2 weeks, we're going to release it, 2 or 3 weeks. So we talked about voice, image input, and it's called vision. Like other ChatGPT features, vision is about assisting you with your daily life. It does that best when it can see what you see. This approach has been informed directly by our work with Be My Eyes, a free mobile app for blind and low vision people. So this is interesting. The deaf are kind of out of luck when you talk to the voice chat. But for the blind, tell me what this is because I can't see it, and it will respond to you and tell you, that is really terrific. For blind and low vision people to understand uses and limitations. Users have told us they find it valuable to have general conversations about images that happen to contain people in the background. Like if someone appears on TV while you're trying to figure out your remote control settings. We've also taken technical measures to significantly limit ChatGPT's ability to analyze and make direct statements about people, since ChatGPT is not always accurate, and these systems should respect individuals' privacy. So access is beginning. It's rolling out right now. I believe it's only for ChatGPT Plus subscribers. So that's going to cost you, $20 a month if you want to be not left behind by the rise of AI. So what else is in the news about AI? Well, in today's New York Times, very interesting work, and this headline is getting a lot of news. AI Obama and fake newscasters. How AI audio is swarming TikTok. Now, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. AI voice, you can make people say things they don't want to say because it's all fake. So when you have some people saying everything you see on television is fake news, sooner rather than later, that's probably going to be generally sort of true. Because you're going to have bad people out there making news using other people's names, voices, images, and likenesses, claiming that it's real, and then it's proven it's not real, and then the people who are with you saying it's all fake news suddenly have standing that, by golly, maybe it is all fake news. In a slickly produced TikTok video, former President Barack Obama, or a voice eerily like his, can be heard defending himself against an explosive new conspiracy theory about the sudden death of his former chef. While I cannot comprehend the basis of the allegations made against me, the voice says, I urge everyone to remember the importance of unity, understanding, and not rushing to judgments. In fact, the voice did not belong to the former president. It was a convincing fake generated by artificial intelligence using sophisticated new tools that can clone real voices to create AI puppets with a few clicks of a mouse. The technology used to create AI voices has gained traction and wide acclaim. Since then, audio fakes have rapidly become a new weapon on online misinformation, threatening to turbocharge political disinformation ahead of the 2024 election by giving creators a way to put their conspiracy theories into the mouths of celebrities, newscasters, and politicians. The fake audio adds to the AI-generated threats from deep fake videos, human-like writing from ChatGPT, and images from services like Midjourney. Now, it's very interesting because sooner or later, we are all going to become, in a way, immortal. We can clone our voice, so our voice will live for as long as the earth survives, even though we're dead for 100 or 200 years. People can make us say new things in the future. just because bits and pieces of us were left behind. Now, what about consciousness and the soul? Is that going to be transmitted into the future as well? I think it will be. And, images now. You do a live show, you have video. People are sophisticated. If you have enough money, enough computing power, enough time, you can download and you can have a whole new person. And this is what the writers' strike is about. And the actors' strike. This is what it's about. This AI that's going to take over their jobs. Who needs a scriptwriter when I can have ChatGPT write one for me that's funnier and faster, and I can have it done in 2 minutes? As I've said before, you're going to get resurrected celebrities like Marilyn Monroe, Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart. They'll all come back through the magic of AI. We have their voice, we have their image, we know their personality. We can put them in a whole new movie, a whole new Avengers franchise with dead celebrities. And I'm telling you, it'll be just as interesting and convincing and lovely as the original work. Now, maybe we're 5 to 10 years away from that happening, but will it happen? Of course it'll happen, because it's going to be big money. There is money in celebrity. Celebrity never really dies. It's always around somewhere, waiting, lurking, hoping, searching to find you. Disinformation watchdogs have noticed the number of videos containing AI voices has increased as content producers and misinformation peddlers adopt the novel tools. Social platforms like TikTok are scrambling to flag and label content as such. Now, I will post the links to these articles on our Discord server. And here's the address of our Discord server. It's discord, discord.gg/BOLES. And you can go to our live stream area and click on these articles if you're looking for more information. TikTok requires labels disclosing realistic AI-generated content as fake. But they did not appear on the videos flagged and that are in question. TikTok said it removed or stopped recommending several of the accounts and videos for violating policies around posing as news organizations and spreading harmful misinformation. It also removed the video using the AI-generated voice that mimicked Mr. Obama's for violating TikTok's synthetic media policy, as it contained highly realistic content not labeled or altered as fake. Now, when I do the Howard Stein narrations and the Marshall Jameson narrations, there's a disclaimer using the voice saying this is an AI clone. I have been dead since this time. I am being, represented to you in this AI form because of AI voice cloning technology. That's very important. If I would just, start having this published with their voice, not saying, hey, this is fake. Not that it's fake, but that it's new, because it has all the characteristics of their original voice. People would think that it was recorded when they were alive, because the voice clones are just that convincing. TikTok is the first platform to provide a tool for creators to label AI-generated content, and an inaugural member of the new code industry best practices, promoting the responsible use of synthetic media. Platforms like TikTok allow AI-generated content of public figures, including newscasters, so long as they do not spread misinformation. Fair enough. Parody videos showing AI-generated conversations between politicians, celebrities, or business leaders, some dead, have spread wildly since the tools became more popular. Manipulated audio files add a new layer of deception to videos on the platforms that have already featured fake versions of Tom Cruise, Elon Musk, and newscasters like Gayle King and Norah O'Donnell. TikTok and other platforms have been grappling with a spate of misleading ads lately featuring deepfakes of celebrities like Mr. Cruise and the YouTube star Mr. Beast. So this is where we are, and this is where we're going. We're going into uncharted territory that is both exciting and terribly terrifying. Because you just don't know what's going to happen. Is that really my mother calling me from jail, saying I need to send her $5,000 to get her out on bond? Or is it a scammer who has, captured my mother and recorded 5 minutes of her voice speaking and uploaded it to a cloning site and typed up a plea to send $5,000 to get out of jail and play that for me over the phone? And you could have a real conversation with someone like that. Where are you? What jail are you in? And the person on the other end can type it in, click play. I'm in this jail in this state. What was my birth name? If the mother's in the room, they ask. She doesn't want to speak because it's too dangerous. She'll say, help me, it's a fake. They get the information. They type it back to you. Your birth name is McGillicuddy. Just like Lucy. That's where it's happening. And they're going to be terrible things. What if this whole Israel thing? You could have bad actors coming in there, chopping up heads of babies and killing thousands of people and saying, oh, look, this is what this group did. And then there's a reaction, go in there and bomb them. And then that group who's bombed says, we didn't make that video. We didn't kill anybody. Why are you reacting this way? We haven't done anything. This is all fake. This is fake audio. This is fake video. What have you done? And then you're not going to be able to go back. Because AI vocal cloning is forever. But human death always has an ending. And you can't recover from that. I thank you for being here today. Had a wonderful chat about AI voice, AI cloning, and deepfakes. We'll talk more about this in the future because this is the driving focus of our day. I'm David Boles. This has been Boles TV. I'll see you again soon. BOLES.television. It's Boles.tv. Thank you. See you later. Bye.